Earlier today, Fallout 76 got its first update following the release of Wastelanders. This update does several things for the game. It itself introduces several new features, although somewhat on the more minor side, but it also lays the framework for some larger features and limited time events that will go live in the next couple of weeks, as well as brings a plethora of bug fixes. A lot of these are really annoying and frustrating bug fixes that I'm pretty happy to see get addressed finally. But unfortunately, this wasn't quite comprehensive. Several bug fixes that I hoped to see weren't actually added. But before we jump into all of that, I do want to share a message from today's video sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. So I'm sure most of you have never, ever heard of Raid Shadow Legends. As such, you may have not known it's a dark fantasy free-to-play game, available not only on your mobile device of choice, but also on PC with absolutely stunning graphics. One of the pretty cool parts about Raid is there are actually a lot of very interesting champions. You'll find yourself building teams and losing in the PvP arena because somehow everyone's better than me, or alternatively finding a ton of success against AI during the fully voiced story campaign. But really, one of my favorite parts of Raid is how you could either play it for just a few minutes or extended durations, and it continues to be fun. Or alternatively, if you are a veteran player, you can challenge yourself in the ongoing tournaments, competing against the Raid community while fighting the Spider's Den, Ice Golem's Peak, or the almighty Fire Knight. And the most recent 1.15 update is coming in May, and with it you'll be able to compete in a brand new arena tournament, earn points according to your tier, and win awesome rewards in the local and global tournament. So Europeans don't have to fret for this one. So with that said, you can go ahead and download this game, go to the links in the description box, and if you're a new player, you can get 100,000 silver and a new free champion, the Grumbler. You will find extra rewards here in your inbox in the next 30 days only. But looking back at Fallout 76, one of the first things I want to go over is some of the new additions to Appalachia, as there actually are several. Firstly, one thing you'll notice is now you could change the outfits on your allies as they're stationed at your camp. Since these allies do basically become just additional camp props, this is pretty handy. So now by simply going up to your ally, you can apply any in-game outfit or even those from the atomic shop, which of course gives them a vastly different appearance at times, and potentially could be a great way to fit them into your camp theme. The way this works though is if you switch allies, they will be reverted, so you'll have to reapply that outfit. And I know some people right off the bat will probably be nervous about giving these allies rare outfits, although technically the way this works is it's assigning the outfit from your stash, similar to a vending machine or display case, which made me feel a bit better about doing it, but still somewhat wary. Although you can give your allies armors in a cosmetic sense, you can't give them weapons, and overall it's not like any of this really provides any major buffs to your allies. Although speaking of weapons and armors, we also saw a pretty large quality of life change to how those two aspects of the game will work, as Bethesda overhauled the weapon and armor naming system. So now there will be a consistent order to weapons and armors in game that will start with the legendary effect or primary legendary effect and end with the weapon name. The actual order is the primary legendary effect, the atomic shop cosmetic name if it has a skin, the mod name, and then finally the weapon name. This is really nice because just when you're going through your inventory, it'll be a lot easier to at a glance see what kind of different weapons you are using. In the past, sometimes when applying skins or mods, it would change up the order and just make it overly confusing. Although of course you still can rename all of these items for yourself. The Backpack Vanity update went live, which basically makes it so now you can actually edit skins and effects on backpacks. Really, it just puts it in line with many other items the way it works with armors and weapons already, as in the past when you wanted backpacks to have different skins or effects, you ended up creating several different backpacks, instead of just having one that you could change the skin on. But this is another one that doesn't bring any functional gameplay changes. One of the larger new things you could do right now in this update are some of the new changes to the Battle Royale mode. Outside of the one change with Wastelanders, it's been a long time since the Battle Royale has gotten any real new content, but now there's going to be another limited time event for the Battle Royale, so certain cosmetics and camp items that you could only earn by playing the Nuclear Winter mode. And to go along with this, they actually added 3 of the new Wastelanders weapons into Nuclear Winter, so just playing the node normally, you'll be able to find the bow, the cattle prod, as well as the Gauss shotgun, which is kind of cool. I feel like they should probably just put all of the weapons in the mode. For whatever reason, even outside of the new weapons. There are several weapons from Fallout 76 they just never have added. Maybe they didn't want to balance them, maybe they felt they were too strong, I don't know. But these new challenges are to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Battle Royale mode. It ends on the day the Battle Royale mode did come out, which is June 11th, so you have a while to complete these. But basically, each day, starting today, one new challenge will unlock, and all you really have to do to complete these is get a certain amount of experience. The first day, today, you only need 150, then the subsequent 6 days are 2,000 per day, with the final one being 2,500 experience. And it's not like these are time limited. You have to complete them in order, so you go to day 1, and then once you get enough experience, you start day 2, and so on and so forth, but otherwise you have between now and June 11th to complete all of these in order. As far as what you can get as rewards, a few different camp items, a fire pit, as well as other miscellaneous things. There's also new weapon skins for the 3 weapons added to the Battle Royale mode, but of course, these are usable both in the BR mode and also in the Adventure mode. In fact, the only way you can get these skins is by earning them via these challenges. But what I thought was actually pretty cool, the final reward for this is a ghillie suit. And I mean, that's cool because I'm sure a lot of people will like this one. Definitely a little bit more practical than the glowing skeleton suit we saw in the past. But it also seems kind of OP as it's the highest tier reward and will probably be very good in the Battle Royale mode itself, especially for bush camping, which a lot of people do, unfortunately. That aside, this challenge overall is definitely much better than past ones Bethesda has done. The Winter Challenge was 30,000 experience overall, while this one's just under 15,000. And even further, since most of the things cost 2,000 experience, it's much more evenly distributed and it's not going to be increasingly difficult like it was in the past, and towards the end you were grinding for literal weeks just for that one item with no rewards. In this version, you'll be getting consistent rewards all the way through. 2,000 experience is roughly 3 games if you win all 3. Some kind of just surprise or curious changes. They made some new animations for barbecue grills as well as the Grognak's Throne item. So now as you're using one of those items, it'll actually play a different animation than it did previously. And even further, this is a big one. You now have the ability to silence the Liberty Prime power armor. This power armor talks, which is cool at first, but then after maybe using it for 100 hours, not as cool. So now you can actually modify the power armor so it is silent. As far as new content goes, that was actually all we learned about, although they did give details on the upcoming releases, one this Thursday and one next Tuesday, so 1 week from today. I'll detail those at the end of the video, as well as some data mines we have around them, but what this update did bring was a ton in the way of bug fixes. Most of the time when doing these videos, I'll only mention a couple of bug fixes, because normally most are minor with a couple thick major ones. Not this time. There is a lot of very relevant things that will actually change your day-to-day play. Although before we go through all of that, I still think it's very odd how Bethesda waited 5 weeks for this update from the release of Wastelanders. It's nice that so many important fixes came, but I feel like splitting them up over several updates over the past 5 weeks would have just been way more ideal. It really is weird to me, despite all the craziness in the world, people working remote, that it still took over a month after your biggest DLC to address some of the bugs added in with that biggest DLC. And again, this really wasn't comprehensive, which starting off, the vending machines and display cases are still disabled. At the end of last week, vending machines and display cases were disabled because there was a dupe exploit around them. It was actually almost funny in that a dupe was found, Bethesda patched it, then another dupe was found, Bethesda patched it again, and then a third dupe was found, Bethesda disabled display cases, but then a dupe around vending machines was also found, so they disabled them subsequently. It is a bit of a bummer, because it is a fairly fundamental aspect of this game, but they just mentioned working towards a fix, so perhaps a hot fix later this week. But as far as the fairly large bug fixes we did just see, stealth was patched. It feels like almost after every update with Fallout 76, people say stealth is broken or changed, but this time it actually was. So if you're receiving stealth from multiple sources at once, stealth would break and not work properly, but that is now addressed and working again. The Free Radicals mask got its legendary removed. They announced this would be coming, but basically the Free Radicals mask was something you could get by making unique choices around the Free Radicals in game. It was unique in that it was the only piece of headwear in game that could drop with a legendary effect, which made Bethesda feel like it was too OP and it almost made it so you had to side with the Free Radicals. So as such, it was removed and now it's just a piece of headwear I'll probably never put on again. In a similar vein, the recently added Mountain Scout outfit for legacy players of the game originally didn't show a backpack while you were wearing it, and a lot of people actually liked this. But that too was a bug, and now it does properly show a backpack. Although it did bring up the discussion of making backpacks toggleable, so perhaps we'll see that at some point in the future. Another pretty big bug fix is around the Vats Unknown, this being the unique alien blaster you get for completing Sophia's questline. In the original questline, even though you can only get one of these per character and it takes a while, for some users it was spawning under level 50, which is bad. So they addressed that, although unfortunately it will not apply retroactively. So if you already got a low level 1, despite being high level, you're just kind of out of luck. But future players are okay. They addressed the bug where you couldn't interact with the legendary purveyor if you were in first person. Sometimes she would just be standing too far back. Each of the faction reputation exploits were removed. So with both the raiders and the settlers, you're gonna have to now get faction reputation the old-fashioned way. This is a big one. They fixed that issue where, when trying to use an emote, the weapon wheel would pop up. They actually removed the ability to earn perk card packs for Nuclear Winter in adventure mode. This was something that happened with Wastelanders, and a ton of people noticed that after logging into Nuclear Winter after Wastelanders dropped, they had a ton of perk card packs. I guess this was unintended, but it doesn't seem like they're removing them, it's just you can't get them in adventure mode any longer. While trading with other players, you can now actually inspect weapons, which is a pretty big addition for those who still use the typical trading method. You can yet again sort by spoilage rate in your inventory, which is another huge quality of life fix. They fixed the issue where Polly's head during the intro Wayward quest would not deal damage in VATS. They fixed a lot of the issues around the press and hold to equip or learn, which was basically dead on arrival with Wastelanders. It was only added in then, but didn't work a bunch of the time. They fixed the issue where the Wendigo Colossus would get stuck in terrain while spawning in the Cranberry Bog and several other places. Also, when enemies would spawn inside a foundation or a crater and attack the NPCs, and subsequently the guards wouldn't fight back, your allies in your camp will no longer attack your turrets or other objects. And finally, the Communist Collectron now collects less propaganda flyers, which is both a good and a bad change. So overall, I'm sure as many of you who have been playing the game will notice, these are some pretty big improvements. A lot of them more quality of life or avoiding certain annoyances. It seems like some things that were changed weren't in the patch notes. The Gatling gun third-person faster fire rate bug was fixed, but wasn't in the patch notes. It seems like some of the changes to the Hot Wheel actually broke it somewhat in Nuclear Winter, so now for the intro part of the game, I just couldn't use my Hot Wheel, but then after a little bit, it would catch up and start working again. But of course, there's some other things that just weren't fixed. The overarching VATS problems. They addressed it with Poly, but it's been affecting a lot of weapons, and it seems like that still isn't addressed. Ward bugging out all of the time. The fast travel bug wasn't in the patch notes, although I technically haven't gotten it since I started playing again, so perhaps it just wasn't in the patch notes, but it was actually patched. But if it wasn't, that bug is infuriating. The social menu has been broken for a very long time, and they actually said in like an older Inside the Vault changes or improvements that would be coming, but there's several problems with that one. But just for an example, I can't see any friend requests unless I accept a friend request. But of course, to accept a friend request, I need to see it, so it makes the whole process a bit more complicated. Typically finding someone in my recent players or adding them manually myself. The Atomic Shop update actually brought some pretty awesome new cosmetics to Fallout 76. The Red Rocket power armor in particular just looks really cool and unique. It has quite a distinctive design compared to some of the past power armor skins they put out, and really just past power armors in general. It's way too expensive for me at $15, but if you've been saving, this is probably something worth buying. Another undocumented change is they removed the separate cap pool for Athena, unfortunately, so now you're back to the 1,400 caps per day limit. But in this post, we also get some details around where Fallout 76 is heading next. Firstly, starting this Thursday, we will have the Treasure Hunter event, which seems like it should be a pretty cool one. It's very similar to the Santa Scorched event, but this time, in the Ash Heap region of Fallout 76, you will be able to find legendary mole miner treasure hunters, and upon killing them, they're going to drop one of 3 pale types. That being a low tier, mid tier, and high tier. The higher the tier, the better the loot pool and the better rewards you can get from it. Separately, you can also craft these pails. Basically, you go to a vendor, you can buy an empty pail, and then adding on some items, you can craft it into one of those 3 pails. It's almost identical to the Holiday Scorched event, except the mole miners only appear in one region for now, but I'll touch on that more in a moment. As far as what you could actually get from unlocking these pails, just general rare items, some of the plans you couldn't get otherwise. All of the mounted head plans are in here, but also things like a backpack plan, the marine armor helmet plan, which you can't get otherwise, as well as several cosmetics. These are totally new cosmetics just added in with this patch, and you will be able to start earning them come this Thursday. This is a true limited time event in that it's only going from Thursday to Monday, so more of a weekend event, but pretty interesting. This is something Bethesda will seemingly have in their rotation of just things to do, like double experience weekends, purveyor sales, etc. And they mentioned that upon subsequent times, this will appear in other regions, not just the Ash Heap, so kind of incentivizing you to spend more time in one part of Appalachia, which is probably a good idea. Outside of that, we also got details on Fosnot, which will last 1 week starting on May 25th, which is going to be the next Monday. The event itself, large in part, seems to be the same as last year. You do the same activities, you try and go through the parade again, although there's going to be some new masks added with this one, as well as we'll see the return of last year's masks, and the mask drop rates have been adjusted according to feedback. Last year, some of the masks were like ridiculously rare, like 1 in a million odds, so this year seemingly those odds are getting a bit of a bump, but also we'll have some new ones in the mix, which is pretty cool to see, and it's going to start every hour at the start of the hour. So it will be something you can consistently and predictably grind. One of the big issues we saw with both the Fosnot and Holiday Scorched event was duping. With Fosnot, those hyper rare masks just became some of the most popular to dupe items in the earlier days of duping because they were one of the rarest sought after items in the game. Seemingly that problem's going away with this year's iteration because everything will be a bit more common, but in particular with the Holiday Scorched event, the presents that you could craft from that ended up getting mass dupe in several duping waves, even just recently. The reason being, they gave you so many different things, whether it be caps, script, rare plans that you could sell or trade, that it just became really easy to dupe a ton of those, open them, and have a ton of great loot immediately. It'll be interesting to see if we're going to get a 2.0 version of that with these new pals, and there's already been some wariness in the community around this event because of that. Not that it really would be any worse than the past one though, but large in part that's going to wrap it up for this video. Tomorrow I'm going to have a deeper dive going over some other things we found in this update, data mines in the files of the game that give us a look at what's to come next in the future, as well as more details on some of the events we just talked about. I know not everyone loves sponsorships on videos, but especially now when ad revenue is so low, it really does help the channel. Either way, until next time, I thank you all again for watching, and I hope to see you all later.
Crap. Trash. Junk. Ooh.